Hi guys, welcome to our weekly podcast. Today we want to talk about the Chambumoron, the new teachings of the Family Federation, which emphasizes on the teaching of the Only Begotten Daughter. Um, we really cannot understand because they say that it is the discourse which what is it? What was that discourse? Was it called the divine principle? The exposition of the divine principle also was called it was Volikongoram. Volikongoram also was a discourse of the principle. So I mean, what are they really want to teach? Or they want to teach about the only begotten daughter. I mean, the only begotten daughter is not is never prophesied in the Bible. No, you can't. I mean, I cannot see anything that the Bible talks of the only begotten daughter or the female Messiah. I mean, this is a total heretical concept. From where does it come from? This idea. I mean, I can only think of a spiritual aspect. It can only come from Satan, because every and in the Old Testament, every female deity was shunned upon. Some of them say, oh, the Old Testament was so many of a patriarchal type of theology. Never gave authority to a female deity, even if they are female deities. I mean, that is unacceptable, isn't it? You can't think of this kind of thing because we are all brought up in a Christian tradition. We who believe in the Old Testament and New Testament.
Right.
So, what type of theology are they trying to talk about? Do you?
Well, it seems to be a revival of ancient paganism.
Is it?
To be quite frank. But look what's happening here. Since True Father ascended,
Yeah.
we had well, first of all, they made a new Young book.
Yes.
And we're told that this is just to improve the English or remove repetitions. But then we found out that they lied about that because they removed True Father's words that don't support Hakchan's new teaching about herself, which is basically that she was born as the only begotten daughter without original sin, and she removed all criticisms of Hakchan that Father made. So he's laying the groundwork for a total hijacking of the movement. And then we see a development of Hakchan's only begotten daughter theology over the years. But basically they've reached a point now where they made this Chambumoron teaching.
Yeah.
And they're saying now, like Michael Balcom said, we can give the quote later.
Yeah.
Well, you just have to read it. You just have to study it. You don't have to believe everything. But why are they pushing this text that doesn't exist yet? And in the first place, what happened to True Father's teachings? Father left us the 8 great textbooks, and True Father said we should study that. The 8 great textbooks we should study for tens of thousands of years. What's wrong with that? Why do we need the Chambumoron?
Yeah, I think they are trying to erase Father from the providence, which is satanic, because Father is the second coming of Christ. I mean, the second coming. We joined the church because we heard that the second coming of Christ has occurred. That's why we joined the church. We never heard of this kind of thing of the only begotten daughter. This is totally new innovation, or it's from Satan, because it's totally dividing the movement. Because all the feminists are kind of gravitating towards the only begotten daughter theology, which is it's a heresy, which is a totally destroying what Father stood for.
Yeah, well, also Damien Dunkley, he said recently as well, get rid of everything you believe in the past. Everything you learned in the past, forget about it. So all the teachings you heard until now is like bad hair. Get rid of it.
It's like brainwashing.
So what's he referring to? He's referring to Father's teaching. Get rid of the 8 great textbooks. Get rid of divine principle. You don't need it anymore. get rid of that to follow Chambumoron, and that's the content of the Only Begotten Daughter theology. Get rid of Father, follow Hachan. That's what he's saying. And this started basically, well, back in 2019. We'll give it a quote for that later. Hachan, already having changed the Chun Chung Young book, made her own fake one, says she's going to change the divine principle. And that was a shock for many. She threatened to change the divine principle, but she hasn't done it. And I think she was probably advised not to do that because a lot of members stopped following her after he changed the Chun Chung Young, and that would have been too much. So they left that. They didn't change the divine principle then, but she said she would. So what they've done now, they've just created this theology over the years, changing the name of God. God is no longer Heavenly Father. In other words, Jesus didn't know what he was talking about. All those in the Old Testament didn't know what they were talking about. Father didn't know what he was talking about. Only Hachan knows who God is, so we have to follow her, for God is Heavenly Parent. And then they changed, step by step, they created a whole new teaching. We can say it's the Only Begotten Daughter theology. But now they're saying, well, they know it doesn't hold water. It's not even logical. It's totally in contradiction to True Father's teaching and divine principle. So therefore, it's saying, don't worry, just study it. You don't have to believe everything. Just study it. And that's a soft way to believe in the whole false teaching, actually. And that's what they're promoting. The Chambumoron, which is total terrible thing. We think of Father, he spent his whole lifetime to give us the truth. And then in a video he said there's only one text, not two. One text, all his teaching. There isn't a second version. And he even said it in English. He was so anxious about it, just not long before he passed. And you should watch that video because he's speaking really, True Father speaking from his heart. He could foresee that they would try and change his words. True Father said, many times, don't change his words. Don't change them. And even that video he is saying, don't change them. He's warning that will happen. So be alert. Just like the Bible warned there'd be false teachers in the future. That prophecy could even be applied here.
It's happening. It's happening totally. I can't even believe that this kind of thing has happened because in a way we are not really fighting against flesh and blood. We're fighting against the spirituality of darkness, which Paul said in Ephesians. It's very clear, that what is happening now, because we think that the truth will be very clear. No, it's not clear. Satan will always try to darken the truth. And people will follow. As I say, the broad road leads to hell and destruction. And the narrow path is one that we should follow. It leads to life and truth. This is what Jesus said, and this is what we really see what is happening. We have the Almighty Chammo, the Almighty Chongsongyong Sanctum been opened, and but what's happening about that? It's like a temple, and God doesn't dwell in buildings. God dwells in the hearts of men. If people are really honest and sincere to the teachings of the divine principle, teachings of Father, teachings of the Chongsongyong, which he said that you should study these textbooks for 10,000 years, and which are handed over to Hunjim, his youngest son.
Yeah, but the divine principle states it's always been a providence sent on the words, because God created the world out of his words, basically, and then Jesus came as a Messiah. He was called the Word made flesh. He is a perfect man. He's one with God. He's God's representative on the earth. So he's the Word made flesh and dwelt among us, Jesus Christ. And Of course, he was rejected and killed, but true Father came as he's here. He's the second coming of Christ. He is the Word made flesh. He come to, in the Bible even, he is the one who unlocked the 7 seals around the scroll that nobody could open. The scroll is a symbol of the truth. It said nobody on the earth or in heaven could open the scroll, but the Lion of the tribe of Judah did that. And the Lion of the tribe of Judah symbolized Christ. That's the second coming of Christ. He unlocks that, the truth. And that's what mankind has been waiting for. That's already happened. And so you can't change the Messiah's words. They were given to us for our salvation. Not only us, but the salvation of people in this generation and many generations to come. That's what True Father said. We need to study these words for generations, tens of thousands of generations. So you can't touch or change his words. Now they've done the very opposite of that. Even before Father passed, actually, there was a committee created to make the new Chambumoron book, headed by Young Wee Kim. There's a video about that. And it was totally unreasonable. Their justifications of doing that were really unfounded. So I recommend to watch that video, because it's made to expose that.
Yeah, we're living in an age of heresy. I mean, it's no different really. When you think of the Christian era in the first century. I mean, we are also living like in the complete Testament, like the first century. I mean, in the first century also there are heretics. Therefore, walking around Jerusalem, teaching that Christ was Christ never defecated, or Christ walking on the eye. There were so many things. There were also heretical gospels that floating around at that time. So it's the same thing that Satan is working to destroy God's providence and God's. But anyway, God, it was also a few who took the word to the Gentile, like Paul, who really witnessed to the Gentiles. So it's the same thing that is happening here, right? I mean, I don't know what's happening in Korea at the moment, but we can see in the Western world or in America, we can see that the sanctuarians are working, like myself and Peter. We're trying to promote the heresy that are going on in the family federation, which is called a family fraud, really.
Yeah.
Because it's a kind of heretical teaching, because you cannot accept that. Only begotten daughter, and the only begotten daughter is destroying the only begotten son. No, I mean, they say that the only begotten son was Jesus. Father was a fallen man that she had to restore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally heretic, totally totally not productive. What she's saying, and nobody raised up. She was born without original sin. You got to believe it. So what's where is it going to?
Yeah, you mentioned the early Christians.
Yeah.
Well, think about the disciples. That they actually kept Jesus' words, even though most of them were illiterate, I believe, the disciples. But they, after Jesus' death, they kept his words in the oral tradition. Even though they couldn't read or write, but they kept this oral tradition. And they kept his words very seriously. And they're for about 70 or 80 years, until they were written down in writing. But even the oral tradition, it might be a room of people, one will be telling this story we heard from Jesus. But it's pretty accurate, because if they deviated, another disciple would have said that's not quite right. And that's why for over 70 or 80, 90 years, no one's absolutely certain about that, but they kept that oral tradition going. And that's why when they wrote it down, it was accurate. We have 4 Gospels. Yeah. But that's the attitude they had toward Jesus. is the Messiah. They really believed his words and they treasured them. And we were grateful for that because we have it in the Bible today. Now the corrupt leaders, they couldn't wait until Father died. They couldn't wait. They had a committee to change Father's words when he's still alive, headed by Young Wee Kim. They made a fake Chambumoron book. And then it went from bad to worse.
And they stopped recording him in on some of the speeches about what he was giving. I mean, I don't know whether you can have access to the historical records of father's speeches. Do you know anything about what they have a history department? Is it that?
Yeah, the history department, and they're controlling it. But they've been changing Father's words in that. But fortunately, Yunjinin he's been speaking up for True Father, and he created a sanctuary church to protect True Father's words and traditions. But that's the real situation. But the thing is that the Hekcha and the corrupt leaders are misleading members who falsehoods. They just tell lies about True Father, telling he's born with original sin, he made mistakes, he shouldn't have married his first wife. They're total lies. Divine Principle states he's born without original sin. And Father explained that Songkyo Choi, his first wife, who he married in 1945, was meant to be true mother, not Hekchahan. So they lied about that. Hekchahan say he made a mistake. Damien Dunkley said he made a mistake. They're liars, actually. They're contradicting True Father. You'd have to believe them or True Father. And I believe True Father, and I always will. They're liars, actually.
Will we have access to all these speeches the Father gave? We gave volumes of speeches, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can we have access in the future of all these speeches, or will they be destroyed by the Han Mother? We can't trust her. No? The only thing that we have now is the 8 grade textbooks, and it was good that Father publicly gave it to Hunjinim at a ceremony. That you are the custodians of the 8 grade textbooks, and it should be studied for 10,000 years. And he said everyone to support it.
I'll tell you what. When they made a new Chambumoron book,
yeah,
right, most members, including myself, didn't have any idea what they'd done. We had no idea. They said it's a new book. Oh, we just improved the English, removed repetitions. We accepted that. We trusted them. But then we find out that they changed Father's words and removed sections in order to create another theology centered on Hekchahan. You see, but now later on, I found out over the years. I know people who tried to get the original Chambumoron book, but when you go to the outlets, the Family Federation, it said it was not available. But we got the new one. Why did you buy the new one? But they didn't have the original one available, so you couldn't get it, actually. So there's very proof that they wanted to make the old one obsolete, because they didn't want people to read Father's words. They wanted people to read a tainted version of Father's words. It was no longer Father's words. They've been changed. That's what they've done, basically. And yes, I agree, we can't trust them, because they're not serving True Father's interest. They don't believe in him anymore. The moment they say Father was born of original sin, he made mistakes, they don't believe True Father. They don't believe True Father at all. They believe Hekchahan, when she claims that she was born without original sin. So she is the real Messiah after all. That's what they're saying. That's what it states. If she was born without original sin, as the only begotten daughter, and Father was born with original sin, who's better? Obviously she is. So they create a whole new religion, and a false one at that. If they want to make a new religion, let them do it. Let them do it. Anyone can create another religion, but they shouldn't steal Father's words. They should make their own words. So they have to make their own words, their own textbooks, and they create their own religion. See who follows her then. If they want to do it, they're free to do it.
And give everything to Hunjinim. Give everything the Father owned to Hunjinim.
Yeah, they're standing down in stolen property, because the real heir and successor is Hunjinim. Father made that foundation, not her, and he declared that Yonju is heir and successor. So why are they in the property? They're thieves. They're liars and thieves, basically. And they will be judged by this. Because they're standing against true father and robbing his property. You're robbing God and lying against true father's representative and the second coming of Christ, true father. Says that they'll be judged heavily for it. So I recommend members to wake up and realize you're following lies. The Only Begotten Daughter theology, or Chambumoron, they're false teachings. They're not father's teachings. Just study divine principle. First, even divine principle itself will expose all that nonsense. True father spoke about divine principle. He spent 9 years of his first life to find of his beginning of his mission to discover that. And he said such a precious words that nobody can change that. Not even God can change it, he said. So you need to really return to true father's teaching, because Satan's really hijacked the movement through Hakchan and corrupt leaders. That's where we are today. Yunchanin is, as father's true heir and successor, was willing to speak out. He was kicked out of the Family Federation for that very reason. Because he's a true heir and successor. He didn't care about his own position, get kicked out. But he cared more about true father's words and his foundation, because he is a true heir and successor. That's what a heir and successor does. He doesn't just fall after money, as the others.
Yeah, and keeping the legacy. Legacy of father is very important, because the father is the second coming of Christ. The second coming of Christ. I mean, what did Jesus go through in his life? I mean, Jesus had the people had accepted Jesus as the central figure that were, then we not have this problem. And we don't know really what would have happened if the Jesus also would have had a bride like Hakchan, and then had been betrayed. And then thinking of it, Hakchan was born in 1943, right? Mm. And father was born in 1920, right? So father was 23 years old when Hakchan was born, right? Mm. So the Messiah was born in 1920. So the Messiah had to wait 23 years for the only begotten daughter to arise. So he cannot do anything else. So even the divine principle, what he discovered, had to be discovered after the only begotten daughter, and the only begotten daughter will have to grow till she was 17, 1960.
Yeah, it's an excellent. That's an excellent point, Dave. It's obvious.
So the timeline doesn't match.
Yeah. Father said very clearly, Seongyo Choi was meant to be true mother. It's a really nonsensical saying she was the only person meant to be true mother. The only reason Hakchan became true mother because of Seongyo Choi's failure. She lost faith, sadly. That she was the person meant to be true mother, not Hakchan. Hakchan's a liar and a fraud. She was good at one point. I guess around the 90s she started to change. She was very good at one point. I really respected her at that time as part of true parents, but not anymore. She's really thoroughly changed father's words, really stealing his foundation. And the way she treated her own son, taking him to court, trying to sue him with public money. The members worked hard, fundraising, sweat, blood and tears often from this. Just a stupid court case, just to try to stop him using the Tongil sign. Goodness me. And then she lost that case because even the judge recognised it was just a nonsensical vendetta about a mother and a son. That's the way it was perceived. All that money was just wasted. The only winners was the lawyers. But then, even the other son, Preston Moon, I don't agree with him. He stole money from properties. He took him to court too. So how can she be a true mother? She's not a true wife, because she doesn't respect her husband at all, true father.
Yeah. And
she doesn't respect her sons. She's not a true wife, not a true mother. And that's exactly what true father said at the end of his life. He has no mother. He has no wife. And she's not true mother. She's just doing as she pleases. That's exactly his words. And that's even on video. And why they can continue to believe she's true mother is beyond me. She's not true mother. That's probably why she gives her new titles, like the Only Begotten Daughter, and now the Holy Mother Hen. It's really getting more and more bizarre and ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't believe in the theology. I think they are singing for their supper. They say the theologians have come. I think four theologians have come about. Like uh, restructuring the Chambumoron to make it authentic. So I don't know how they will fit in the timeline. It will be hilarious to if we get a copy of it translated into English. I don't know whether it's published, but it's a kind of book that they have made.
Is it? I mean, it's funny they haven't translated it. It said they have it in Korean, I think. But let's see it. It's totally. But I can see already what they're saying. But they've rejected Father's words. They said, especially Damien Dunkley, he said, "Forget what you've heard before. It's all like old hair. You throw it out. Old hair, you throw it out. You don't need any more. Let it go," he said. Let Father's words go. You don't need them anymore. All of Father's words, 8 great texts, all his life's work, pouring out his heart and spirit, giving his words, is rubbish, according to Damien Dunkley, which is Hackjan's view. That whatever that Chambumoron is that's what it's about, basically. But we'll have to look at it and expose it, because members tend to be confused by it, and it's pretty sad, really.
It's very sad. It's unbelievable. But then again, Satan is Satan. No? He's working definitely. He's definitely working to destroy the movement, and he's destroyed. That's what Father said when he wrote his declaration of the second king. He said, anybody else is a heretic and a destroyer.
Exactly.
And she is a destroyer. She destroyed the movement. She's destroying it now. I mean, they sold so much of property. Even the New Yorker is supposed to be on sale. So we don't know what else will be on sale at this time. So it's not the Unification Church, because even the media portrays her as the founder's wife of the Unification. She's not the founder. I mean, she's not the founder of the Unification Church.
It must be laughing. She's a co-founder of Unification. Father founded the Holy Spirit Association in 1954. Now, if Hackjan's a co-founder, she was 11 years old at that time.
Yes.
11 years old. I'm the co-founder.
I think Hangshul Khan, the true mother, should be the real founder, because she was the one who witnessed for Father, and she had that intellectual capacity to understand the principle. She was a theologian herself, and she pioneered the movement. The Father said that she is the mother of the Unification Church, because she went out pioneering.
Yeah, I mean, when Hackjan was true mother, when she was united with Father, there was nothing expected from her. She just had to unite with true Father. That's all. But Father gave her mission sometimes. She gave a speaking tour. That's fine, like the early 90s. That's fine. She didn't need to do anything else. She had important mission for her was to unite with Father and be a true mother for all the members. That's all she needed to do. Mm-hmm. So in that position, being the wife of the founder, you are actually, you can be a co-Messiah in a sense, sent on the real Messiah. You're co-Messiah, co-founder in that sense, but you're not the Messiah independently of Father. No. You're not a different Messiah. You're not another founder. You're not going to make another claim, and that's when members are confused. Oh, she's a founder. He said that. Father said that only in good faith. It only stands when you're united with. Even the blessing itself, the blessing only stands when you remain united with your spouse. If you divorce your spouse, blessed, then you're no longer a blessing. How can you be? It doesn't make sense. So when Hackjan betrayed Father, is she still Messiah? No, she's not. The blessing, you have to keep the same faith. That's in the Constitution, I believe. If you change faith with the Messiah, then you're no longer considered blessed. You're no longer blessed. Members are very confused, I think, because actually they say, well, some say, how can divorce? How can she be divorced from father? Well, think of this. Actually, an ordinary wedding, right? Ceremony. What's the vows? You're married until death do us part.
Yeah.
Right? So you're married. A wedding is valid up to your physical lifetime.
Yeah.
Right? But Jesus said there's no marriages in heaven. Why do you say that? No marriages in heaven, in the spiritual world. Because actually the marriages, earthly weddings, are from the fallen world. You see? There's no... So in the spiritual world, you don't live as husband and wife. You already blessed. You live as single people. But the blessing, that's the eternal one. You're supposed to, in the spiritual world, live as husband and wife there. Now, people say, well, Yunjin divorced his wife, divorced his parents. No, he didn't. He didn't need to. He didn't because it already fallen in the spiritual world. But then the blessing was broken by Hakchan. See, he didn't need to bless. Hakchan destroyed her own blessing by betraying father. So it's a really nonsensical question. Did Yunjin divorce his parents? He didn't need to, because he's already in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
And the earthly wedding has no validation in the spiritual world. No marriages in heaven, like Jesus said. Only the blessing status is. So if you're a blessed person, a blessed couple, they're married also in the spiritual world, because that's connected to God's lineage, to the Messiah.
Yeah, this is anyway.
But they're really gone the wrong way, because they've started to believe that Father was born with original sin, so he didn't have the power to give the blessing anyway. According to Hakchan, only Hakchan was born with that original sin, so she gives the blessing. But that's totally nonsensical. She has no power to give a blessing. She was born with original sin, and she betrayed the real Messiah. So they really fall in a heretical group.
It is a heretical group. Yeah, I don't know. It will take time, but we thank God. We thank Hunjanim for ever standing up against his mother, and really united with father. We have to be really grateful for it. Otherwise, history would have been, a disaster.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for listening, and we have a blessed week ahead of you. And God bless you, and God bless your families.
Thank you. God bless.